These last couple of years have been devastating for the gaming industry, with a lot of people choosing to pass up on newer games, particularly young gamers, instead choosing to embrace more retro titles. This has led the gaming industry and a lot of studios to try to figure out ways to maximize profits with the people that are still sticking around. One strategy that EA was tossing around was including more advertisements in game because, if they're not able to actually have growth as a company because they're attracting more people, then they have to find some way of making more money off of the individuals that they do have sticking around. Other companies start including more microtransactions and other things like that, which a lot of things like this is just exacerbating the problem because it just puts people off of playing a lot of newer games. They would rather just go back to playing retro titles and not have to deal with a lot of that other stuff. And this is why the gaming industry is essentially on life support at this time. And a lot of people have pointed out the fact that there's been so many layoffs within the industry. It's unrealistic for us to assume that they're going to be sticking around, at least in the current form that they are in, unless they do something dramatically to actually shift course. We have this article right here from Variety that's talking about the layoffs that's been plaguing the industry for the last couple of years. And 2024 is actually pretty bad because in 2023, it was already bad enough that there was a number of layoffs. But already in this year, and we're just halfway through the year, they've already had more layoffs than all of last year combined. The first quarter of 2024 saw a huge deluge of layoffs hit the video gaming industry after more than 10,000 global jobs were cut in 2023. Halfway through the year, and the damage done is dumbfounding. By the end of June 2024, global gaming layoffs had fully outpaced last year. Q1 did see heavier cuts at prominent companies, including Microsoft-owned Activision Blizzard and Unity Software, which cut close to 2,000 roles each, followed by cuts in high hundreds at Sony's PlayStation, EA Tencent-owned Riot Games, and another 500 at Amazon subsidiary Twitch. This chart included in the article shows a number of layoffs within the gaming industry since 2022, and one could look at this and think that that's pretty small. Like, okay, yes, in the whole gaming industry in 2023, they lost around 10,000 jobs. They've lost around 10,000 jobs halfway through this year alone. That's a small drop in the bucket since there's hundreds of thousands of people employed within the gaming industry globally. But when you consider that there's consistent negative growth as far as employment, then that's usually the sign that the industry is dying and they need to do something in order to try to change course, because what they're doing currently just isn't working for them. Yes, they're going to try to increase profits in some way, shape, or form, but that's ultimately just a band-aid and it's not fixing the overall problem. But Q2 didn't assuage the notion that these layoffs were the last pitfall to come after the publicly traded leaders of the industry finished sorting out their budgets for the year. The second quarter was marked by Take-Two Interactive slashing more than 600 roles in a third wave of layoffs within the last year, the result of intense cost-cutting as the publisher group prepares Grand Theft Auto 6 for the finish line. And it is pretty normal within the industry to lay off people after a big project like GTA 6 is concluded. And it's not really layoffs as much as it's just kind of bringing in seasonal employees, because for some of these bigger projects, you need all hands on deck. So they will be hiring outside help in order to work on it. And then after the project is concluded, then you don't need all those people around consistently. So then you lay them off, or you just pay out their contracts and they go off and do something else. But when it comes to GTA 6, it's kind of strange because the game isn't out yet. And presumably at this time, this is when you'd want to have all hands on deck, because there's that crunch period in the direct lead up to the release of the game. That's when you want to have everyone working on it. But when it comes to GTA 6, not only are they delaying the release of it, which is kind of strange because it's supposed to make a lot of money for the studio, but then they're also getting rid of people. And the only reason I can think the studio would be doing something like this is because they need to actually just pay the bills and they can't afford to keep people on, even if firing them basically means you're going to have to delay your next big paycheck. With its release still more than a year away as Grand Theft Auto 5 nears its 11th anniversary as a top 5 live service alongside Fortnite, Roblox, Call of Duty, and Minecraft, the delay of the expected billions GTA 6 will rake in has made it difficult for Take-Two to find much to brag about in its earnings. And something to point out is the fact that these games are older games. Besides Call of Duty, that's pretty much the most current one on there, but a lot of these other ones like Grand Theft Auto 5, Minecraft, those games are over a decade old. Fortnite, that's another popular one that's near a decade old at this point. So it seems like people are more interested in older games and less interested in what's coming out right now. And a lot of people within the industry are trying to figure out what's actually causing a lot of these problems. This chart right here kind of has some industry insiders, like their response or what they think is the problem. One of the big ones is they think investors have unrealistic expectations. And I can understand that to a point, because investors think a company has to have consistent growth, because if you're a company and you're just staying where you are, well, that's stagnation, and investors don't like that. They want to have their money actually make money. So that's why you invest in a company. And we've seen within the gaming industry, it's kind of like what I was saying at the start of this video, where they're not making enough money. They're not attracting more gamers. So the only thing left to do is to try to find ways to make more money off of the existing gamers that you have. And that's really just a lot of stuff that will alienate them. Like, you can charge more for games. Well, people don't like that. You can have more microtransactions. People don't like that. You can start putting more ads in games. People don't like that. So any strategy to try to grow the industry just isn't working out for them. The only thing that they really could do is just kind of make better quality games in order to try to attract new people to it. But that's also not feasible as well, or at least it doesn't seem feasible, because another thing cited on here is just mismanagement and cost of development too high. Because I think in their mind, they have to make it more bigger and better. They have to almost grow the technology and expand it. And that's one reason why the costs are going so high. Like Grand Theft Auto 6, that's like $1 billion game or whatever. It's like, yes, is it going to make billions? Probably. But I mean, they're spending so much money on that game. It's just insane that that's where we're at in these days. And you can see other games that are smaller, like Power World, for instance, that was made dirt cheap and that had a huge return on investment. And I personally think that's where a lot of studios should go, not trying to make something bigger and better, because gamers in general don't necessarily want all that flash or anything like that. It's like, yes, the pre-rendered cutscenes, those look cool, but that's not why people play games. People play games because they want fun gameplay, and with what they're doing just isn't delivering that. They need to do something else. It talks about in this article about how Grand Theft Auto 5, the date from the time that was released, what was it, like 4 or 5 years after Grand Theft Auto 4, and now it's around 12 years between Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto 6, and they're saying they have to grow it like that because they're releasing consistent updates for 5, and then they have to release 6, and that has to expand on it and be even bigger and better than that. And I can understand that sentiment, but they've almost shot themselves in the foot by trying to grow the technology, because then they're pretty much having consistently moving goalposts that they can never reach unless they're just constantly throwing more money at it. And this isn't even dealing with the idea that they're just trying to chase away some of the consumers by inserting messaging and other things like that, and having companies like Sweet Baby Inc. get involved with the writing, because that's another issue entirely. I'm just assuming that the studios themselves are trying to do the right thing by the gamers. And if that's really what they're trying to do, then just kind of go back to the drawing board, just make simple games, fun games, instead of having a $200, $300, $400 million game, just have like 10, like $40 million games or something like that instead. Because at that rate, every one of them doesn't necessarily have to be a hit. You just have to have one good game in there, like one Power World in the mix, and then you all of a sudden, then you just have a huge return on investment. And that's something that would actually be appeasing the shareholders, and it would make it something more reasonable for them. And it makes it more accessible to regular people too, because then you don't have to have all these fancy computers or anything like that to play the game. Most people who have a decent setup could actually be able to play the game, or even just the current generation of console. But I don't know, the studios are kind of a slave in a way to the consoles, at least the ones who are trying to make console exclusives. They want to grow the technology so they can sell the next thing, which means the studios are forced to try to produce something that actually works with the technology within that console. And as a result, they're just kind of shooting themselves in the foot. And I'm talking about the console developers too, with the way they're doing this. So there's really no easy solution to all this. Let me, like I said, just kind of make better quality games and just try to go back to the drawing board and make something that people want to play, versus just trying to make, tech demos, which is kind of what we've been getting these last few years. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below, because this isn't really a easy solution. Like I said, making better games is kind of like the go-to response to this, but I'm curious what other people think would be the better idea for how to go about making better games. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest in entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share the video, because it helps out with the channel. Thank you.